Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer, many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites, because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if all the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Rising sun or moon, March 2023. Aquarius, you're the most important sign, because the most important events are happening for you this month. Not just this month, but for it's probably Aquarius will be the sign that feels the biggest shift of all. Why is that? Because first, on the 7th of March, Saturn is leaving your sign. Saturn was for the last 2.5 years in your sign. Basically, it entered there on April 2020. How did your life change since April 2020? Think back on it. Yep, this was Saturn, guys. At some point from that time till now, Saturn really started a new beginning in your life, and a lot of endings came, a lot of challenges, because a new you was being born, maybe a crisis of personality, wondering who you are and where you're headed, new roles being given to you, roles of a mother, roles of a new social role that you acquired. Well, if you want to figure out and see and recapitulate how Saturn in your first house has changed you, listen to the next sign, Pisces, because I speak how Saturn will affect them in their own sign in the first house for the next 3 years. And the lessons, it's the lessons that you've gone through in the past 3 years already, but listen to it as if it's already happened to you. It really changed us a lot, like people. Saturn in our first house made us mature, made us become aware of time and age, and made us change our priorities. What is the most important thing? Because life force energy tends to be restricted when Saturn is in one sign, so one can prioritize where to direct their energy and so on. big changes. But when Saturn moves out of our sign, so do listen to Pisces. You'll find it very interesting to see what happened for you in the past 2 years and to put it into perspective for the soul evolution and what it meant for you. And even though it was difficult, what it achieved in your life, the Saturn in your sign. So Saturn is moving into our second house. I'm Aquarius rising too, so that matters for us. So you will immediately start feeling like lightness, because Saturn is this heavyweight energy that kind of puts pressure. Saturn is the planet that creates diamonds out of carbon, basically, and a lot of pressure, a lot of heaviness. So the moment Saturn leaves our sign, you might start feeling more energized, first of all. You might start feeling more life energy and prana. Because the first house, especially for the Ascendant, the Sun and the Moon is where the life force is, the etheric body, which Saturn restructured, reorganized. It was a slow process, but now basically you have almost like a new matrix of the etheric body that Saturn created in the last 2-3 years. And the etheric body is which attracts the little particles, atoms and whatever from the physical world, and to recreate a new body. So you almost went in some kind of a rebirth, like you know, like the cocoon, like the butterfly in a cocoon, how the caterpillar falls apart inside the cocoon and then its particles regroup to form a butterfly, totally new organism. So this is what Saturn in the first house has been doing for you. But it might feel like you felt less energetic, lethargic, or maybe just heavier, older, just things are moving slower, and who am I, and where am I heading? Well, now Saturn comes out of your sign and the butterfly starts to emerge, lightness, and you understand why you are limited in movement, or why you are limited somehow in expression and moving forward in the last 2-3 years, and that you did this important work of regrouping the cells in your organism. So now for the next 30 years, you started a new cycle with Saturn in your first house for 29 years. And as I said, the etheric body was organized and regrouped better. The etheric body is, I said, the vibrational matrix of the body that attracts the physical particles that your body, it has the same shape, has the same look. Psychics can tell you it's just a little bit 1 centimeters above, but this is the energetic matrix of the body. So hopefully you reconstructed this energetic matrix in a subconscious way, almost and by changing certain habits and becoming more mature, more serious, more deliberate. And now your body will be rebuilt stronger in the coming years with new templates, with new information. But Saturn moves into the second house. So what is this about? So we'll feel this lightness on our etheric body, more life energy and so on, but then a new set of lessons are coming for us for the next 3 years till 2026. And that's regarding second house is very much about consolidating those new changes that are happening, consolidating our energy, redistributing it correctly again. And again, being cautious with our energy when Saturn is in the second house. It's still a period when you have to redistribute the energy. This is the house where we store energy. And Saturn tells you, be more deliberate with all energy that you store. Energies, it can be money, it can be resources, it can be food, you know. So Saturn asks you to be cautious where you spend this energy as well. But most importantly, it wants you to restructure and reorganize your attitude to matter. Second house, the first house is etheric, the life force body. Second house is the physical, material. So now the focus moves from you way more and who you are and identity and life force to what do I do with the material. So you'll notice that you become way more interested in career, work, savings, money, or way more worried initially for us the first year. More often, especially if you're the earlier born Aquarius, so you feel it immediately, you might be like, you become aware of restrictions materially and financially. You become aware of dangers in the outside world which can impact your finances, resources, your stability. And you're asked to start taking precautionary steps so you can preserve whatever is valuable in your life, like resources, finances, or that you can either preserve or or become aware of the, let's say, the wasteful practices you might have. Maybe you spend too much money, or maybe you have no control of your finances. You don't know what to spend on, and certain circumstances happen around that time that force you to become way more mindful over the next 2-3 years, where you spend every penny, for example. Or like if you're like someone like me, because we have Pisces in our second house, and Neptune's been in Pisces for the past 10 years. So Neptune entered our second house in 2012, and Neptune, though it's a beautiful planet, it can make us very like disorganized with finances. It can make us very unaware of the practicalities of life. And it's a material house, but a spiritual planet. So you can become almost like sometimes even irresponsible with finances or confused. I don't even know how much I have in this bank account or that bank account. I never know how much I spend per month. I mean, not all Aquarius are like that, but especially in the last years, maybe there's a bit of chaos with their finances. Neptune doesn't stop you to make money, but for me it was the opposite. But I'm not in control, and I'm not aware what's happening and how much, or I don't even know. Second house is how you eat. I don't know. My eating routines are like, I'll eat one day once, another day twice. And Saturn comes and says, I need to fix the mess of Neptune. I need to put more order here. You have to start eating by good remedies. Saturn comes and says, you might, if you don't want to put on weight or something like that, or have to feel the results on your health, you have to start eating one of the first second house things, eating more in a routine. So every day, maybe Saturn is about diminishing, making less. Maybe do intermittent fasting when Saturn is in your second house. Maybe remove certain foods from your diet. So a lot of you will start feeling that you're very much more focused and interested on such things. I remember last time Saturn was in my second house is when I suddenly discovered about eating separate foods. And I did it for 3 years, and that was the first time 30 years ago when I regulated my food. And never after that was I able to. I knew every mouthful that I did. I knew every calorie. I was like, don't separate carbs with whatever. So it doesn't have to be this. It can be something else that you do with your food now and your eating habits, but you'll become way more in control of them. You'll become way more able to regulate these. So yeah, Saturn will help you do that. You can even lose weight because of that. But also second house is your teeth. Be careful. You need to do prevention for your teeth. Start taking care of your teeth well. Maybe do some corrections there. Saturn wants to repair, correct mistakes. More cavities can appear, so be careful. Saturn is planet of rotting. Be more consistent, or more extensive teeth work can be needed for some of you. But on another level, second house is, as I said, access to finances, to resources, to be self-sufficient. Saturn wants to teach you to be self-sufficient, to rely on yourself. So you have to be more mature and responsible. If you're someone like me who never knows what they spend and what they have, Saturn comes and you either internally will start feeling like you have to organize yourself with these matters, or external circumstances will force you. Maybe there is limited access to finances and resources, and now you have to become more mindful about how you spend, to budget, to know how where exactly your where you put your money. So these will be themes for 2-3 years that most of you will be dealing with. And some of you, there might be sometimes losses with Saturn in the second house, especially if you're irresponsible financially, or there might be the need to restrict yourself financially and limit yourself there in some way. For others, it can mean that they have to start preserving whatever they've created as financial opportunity and as a financial or whatever they like storage amassed, bank details or valuables. They need to start preserving them, or they can get some damages, say something valuables, clothes, whatever, they can get damaged. Or they can, if they have money saved, they have to be more deliberate and cautious. Put it in something long-lasting, your savings, which is Saturn, something reliable, like it might be property, it might be gold, it might be silver, something tangible, old school material, rather than too innovative, because Saturn wants you to preserve your assets and preserve your in the old and tested ways, and in something tangible, not something volatile, not something Bitcoin or something that is invented, or something that is intangible that you don't know where it's going, and even took it out of the stock market if you have to and put it in something real, or there might be losses again. And Saturn comes is the ruler of your 12th house of losses, so I don't exclude for Aquarians to have financial losses of some sort unless they use the rules of Saturn, invest wisely or invest in something tangible, material. Sometimes gains can slow down, or finances can slow down, or maybe some of you might be saving for something because you're trying to buy property or get education, and you need to tighten up the belt financially. And you might need to, spend less so you can invest it in something wisely. Saturn likes constructive things to invest in the long term. So if you might have to diminish your expenses and your spending, and you might have less money because you're investing in something that will have long-term effect. That's also a good thing that Saturn in the second can do. Another thing that the second house is that might be good time to bring out old clothes or old possessions and revive them, bring them second life in the next 3 years. Or maybe you might get into antiques, or you might start, your taste might become more old school. Say, for example, you've always decorated your house more modern, whatever, and Saturn enters your second house and your taste become more Saturnian, because second house is what you consider attractive. And you might get into retro things. You might get into old cars, so you might get into old furniture, or dressing up something a bit more retro or more conservative. That's another thing, more conservative. On another level, the second houses, you can benefit by actually some antiques that you can make a gain on, because Saturn is not big on new things. It's great on old things. Take something old, revive it, you can gain through it or whatever, or invest in something old school. On another level, yes, if you are restricted financially during this period and things are slowed down, it's because Saturn always slows down whatever area it passes through to make you look more deliberately at everything. So if you notice that you have financial difficulty starting, it's time to reconsider and to take a deep thought and deep, like, the Saturn's energy is like a revision, like a deep revision, like someone who sits and looks through each of the, where does your money go, how do you spend, rebudget, where do you invest, maybe you should change the investments to something that's more tangible, long term, or maybe you should change even your job. So so you change your kind of restructure and you organize, which will affect to restructure and reorganize your finances. Plus Saturn will be making trines to your 10th house, 6th house of work, of career. So you can do some really great work now to streamline not only your finances, but your whole material life, your career, to make it more elegant, to get a lot of hard work done, to receive more seniority with career, with work, to be very meticulous, very dedicated to work and career as well. That will reflect also in your finances. But if more money comes to you during Saturn in the second house, it's due to your own efforts, because Saturn also rules your first house, and due to consistent repeated efforts. And you can truly build new sources of income when Saturn is in the second house for the next 2-3 years. But you need to coddle it and grow it gradually, like a baby, like a master sculptor that takes care of every detail. So especially if anything to do with money for the next 2-3 years, read the fine print. Anything to do with investments, always read the fine print so you're not disappointed. Always do your research meticulously. That's very important. Another side of the second house is self-worth. Initially, it can be like a hit on your self-worth. You might feel depreciated in some sort by someone. You might feel like, and that can make you take a long and hard look again of where is your sense of self-worth coming from? What are you basing it on? Is it on tangible or intangible things? Because the second house deep inner meaning is your inner resources, no matter, not just your bank account, not just your belongings, but your inner resources. And inner resources are all the talents we have, are all the ability to be resourceful, to go to any circumstances and make the most out of it. So oftentimes, if you have your own business, people change prices during that time. They reorganize, and they might sometimes, like, you have to really understand your deep value and what it is based on. And you might even need to take a hit back on some gains financially, but just so you can focus on more quality project that you can give, and what will make you feel more worthy yourself sometimes. So yeah, you need this video to come back, because I'm speaking about a lot of things. And there's a lot more things that the second house represents, guys, that I speak about in my 2023 video for Aquarius, which is 3 hours long almost, and you can check it out. There is a link below. It's only $21 for 3-hour video, and I speak a lot more in depth about Saturn in the second, Pluto, and all the other planets that you'll have. So the other big event is that Pluto is entering your sign, and you're like, oh gosh, Saturn just Saturn is finished with me, now it's Pluto. Pluto is even more intense. Well, Pluto will enter your sign and will stay there for 20 years. First, it will dip its toe for a couple of months this year, from March 23rd till June. Then it will go back in your 12th house. And if you want to know how the 12th house lessons you had with Pluto in your 12th house, watch the Pisces video. I speak in depth about how it will influence, how Pluto in the 12th house will influence them, but it will give you a perspective, everything that you've experienced in the last 14 years, what was the evolutionary goal of it all, because I explain it, and you listen to it knowing that it's happened already to you. The Pluto in the 12th house, you'll hear about it in my Pisces video, listen to it. But Pluto is finishing with your 12th house, with our 12th house. Pluto did a big astral cleansing there. The 12th house is connected to the astral body, the subconscious, the past lifetimes, the fears and paranoias that we have that we are not aware, that we almost like wire those things. We don't know why we have addictions or self-sabotaging behaviors or irrational fears about certain things. Pluto maybe awoken a lot of those for many Aquarians. Pluto maybe to deal with those inner demons or those inner fears. A lot of vivid dreamings maybe happen for some of you, but I speak about it in the Pisces video, so watch it to hear what the final take is from Pluto in the 12th house. And that was to clean up the traumas. And when Pluto comes out of your 12th house, you start feeling that you are liberated from this. You start feeling that a heavy subconscious burden and heavy subconscious trauma is out of your life, or heavy compulsion that was subconscious, that was driving you maybe to always break up in your relationships, maybe to always mistrust others, maybe to some subconscious fear to fear small spaces, some subconscious fear to use drugs or to drink or to self-harm or to self-sabotage, that it will start evaporating, because Pluto is coming into the conscious area of your horoscope in the first house. It's coming out of the subconscious. It's bringing all those subconscious things into the surface. So at some point in the next 20 years, depending what degree your rising sun, moon, or ascendant is in Aquarius, you will experience Plutonic death and rebirth like nothing you've experienced before. I believe that it starts happening from the moment Pluto enters your sign, which is in March. You'll get for 2-3 months an inkling what's about to happen. And then it goes back into a 12th house, so a bit more work in the subconscious and clearing up past traumas and paying off past karmic debt. It's hard having Pluto in the 12th house sometimes, and it's coming out and we've paid it off, and we come starting, and Pluto, it will, from the moment it starts transiting Aquarius, it will start purifying our etheric body. What is that? Pluto is a purification process of death and rebirth. The etheric body is the life force body. I spoke about that. The Saturn first blocked it here for a bit, and now Pluto wants to empower us to actually those centers through which there is a center here that the etheric body gets charged with life force, It's situated in the solar split, I think. And Pluto really wants to purify that, so you can receive as much life force as possible. And so your body can be rebuilt in the as much healthy way as possible. And if there are huge blockages, sometimes Pluto can bring even serious diseases. And serious diseases, a serious sign to totally change something and your life never to be the same after that, to totally change some mental patterns, emotional patterns, physical habits. Sometimes Pluto is known as the planet of cancer and such kind of extreme life and death diseases. I'm not saying you're gonna get cancer and die, but I'm just saying that in extreme cases, if this happens to some of you, know that it doesn't mean you have to die. It means you have to transform in a big way. But usually to 99% of people, Pluto will act like some big buildup of emotions that happens, and that is released, and then you're free, and then you're new, and it's kind of like you're able to connect through the solar plexus, through the pranic body becomes more vibrant, more alive. But usually there is a healing crisis that happens. So everyone who's been having Pluto transit over the Ascendant or Sun or Moon, they describe that for a year exactly when the transit is. You'll know if you join my webinar on the end of February, the start of March, because I give dates for each degree and years when exactly it will happen. But it starts working from the beginning. Pluto enters your sign. Even if your Sun or Ascendant or Moon is far away from the first degree, it starts already building up and working. So there is like some build up, there's some period, and the intense period is the exact degree of Pluto crossing. When there is some crisis, it feels very physical, I can tell you that. It feels very intense. It feels like you might explode even. You might need to do a lot of physical, vigorous exercise to channel this energy, because it's energy that's trying to cleanse your, to basically allow you more life force and prana to come into you, and to totally reorganize your physical health and body. And if it's your Sun, also vitality, but also mind, how you think, how you view life. The Moon, if it's your Moon in Aquarius, it will totally reorganize your astral body and how you feel. And so a lot of pain comes to the surface consciously. It's not subconscious process like in the 12th house. It comes to the surface in intense and in fast period. It gets released, and then you feel like brand new and reborn. So Aquarians will be reborn in some way. The early degrees, they'll feel it earlier. They'll feel it if you're 0 to 1 degrees Aquarius already in 2023. The later degrees, the following years, But already Pluto wants to empower you. The ultimate goal of Pluto is to bring the power back to you. While Pluto was in our 12th house, it felt like the powers somehow, the most important pivotal events might have happened due to past lives or due to circumstances outside of our ability to influence them. It kind of was more karmic period for the last 14 years. And karmic periods can be also great, like I achieved a lot of things. And it's more like I realized, because Pluto was in my 12th house, that it's something as a karmic consequence from past lifetimes that I continued. But it was almost like I didn't have a saying in it. It was almost like I was forced into that, into even the great things, that it was outside. It wasn't kind of conscious, deliberate. It happened. I was told to start the astrology. It was kind of a little bit out of my control. I couldn't control it. When Pluto enters in our sign into your first house, you start being more in control. And you start, it wants you to bring the power back to you. And it wants you to empower you ultimately. But initially at the start of such a transit, it can feel like your power is fully taken by something. And then especially something that you've been very scared about, very fearful about, and you confront that thing that you're most fearful about, you overcome it, and you no longer have this fear. So you become more and more empowered. So Pluto can bring situations in your life where you really challenge others, where you really become like an X-ray, where you really, Pluto can make you feeling more scorpionic, and that you kind of hide a bit more, that you don't put out everything for everyone to see, that you're more strategic in your action, because you're starting to recognize, you become like an x-ray, that you can recognize the motives of others, and you can notice if someone's motives are negative or positive. But Pluto learns you to be strategic about your actions. The first house is your actions, so you don't expose yourself and get taken down by the enemy, but that you're very deliberate, and that you plan, just like Scorpio, and that you're as wise. There is a saying, as wise as peaceful and gentle as a dove, and as wise as a snake. This is the action of Pluto. So you have to become way more deliberate, way more, because oftentimes when Pluto enters your sign, you start recognizing the wrongs in the world and all the abuses of power that are happening around you, or anyone who is cheating, betraying, lying. You see through them, and you're not gonna, and you have to be wise how you approach that. Somehow events happen that are about experiencing this, the darker side of life, the underbelly of the beast through others, or even your own darker side that gets stimulated when Pluto transits your first house. So you recognize there is evil, and you recognize how to deal with it, and you recognize how to, or shadow, and you recognize how to be clever about it as well, and strategic. You can't fight evil with evil. But some of you Aquarians might be called for a mission in the next 20 years to bring out to the surface, for humanity, for society, in some leading role, because the first house is a leader, or in some kind of a role that is interventionist, that calls out and that points the wrongs of the world to others, that points the dirtiness, the darkness, the abuses of power. If you're someone who abuses power yourself, you can have a big crisis. You can have a big, serious fall from grace. But if you're someone who's been abused, you'll be called to take back this abuse. But it indicates power struggles that are likely to happen, especially because you start recognizing the shadow in others, and you try and call them out on it, and you don't want to be a puppet anymore for someone, and you don't want to be, you want to take this power back, and this can aggravate a lot of people around you, because you're getting this power, you're getting empowered, so you can find yourself in power struggles with others. But eventually you'll become empowered. Of course, you shouldn't abuse your power as well. And people who use their own power, Aquarians who use this power that the universe will give them for the next 20 years to transform society and help others, will achieve positions of great power, will be transformed, will have can become millionaires, can become esteemed members of society, can be given new roles of great responsibility and leadership. But those who find themselves abusing power, they can really have some serious consequences, because Pluto doesn't mess around. And interesting, look, Capricorns just had Pluto in their signs for the last 14 years. Let me give you as an example a few famous Capricorns. Jeff Bezos, when Pluto was right on his sun in 2020, what happened? He became triple more richer. Well, he was contributed something to some service or whatever to society, but Pluto can give you a lot of power. So you have to be careful how you handle it, and people can take a lot of power from you. Another person that has strong Capricorn is that Pluto's been transiting has been Marcon on his MC. So you see that when Pluto comes and his people are raging against him, such people get a lot of power, but if they abuse the power, they can be disgracefully taken down. And Marcon has it at the very last degree, while Trudeau, I think he's the first degree of Aquarius and the last degree of Capricorn had Pluto. They're given a lot of power, but also a lot of power struggles, because there's a sense of abusing power as well. But so you have to be, so Pluto can make you, I have a few friends Capricorn who became super rich with Pluto transiting their Ascendant or Sun, and they were very afraid from certain things. They confronted those things and actually became so empowered and so independent and so strong, unshakable now. But when the transit itself is happening, it feels intense. You might feel you're going a bit crazy. You might feel you're having panic attacks, because it's extreme release of emotion. It's like extreme death and rebirth process. But it's the ultimate goal is to empower you, oftentimes for you to recognize your own power and to really transform, if it's your first house in Aquarius, the role that you play in society. So you'll be given new role names. Some might become a mother, some might become a leader, some might become a, you know, whatever, some new role, some new direction in life. And the other good thing Pluto does, a lot of willpower. Wow, it's like laser focus willpower. It can make you move mountains in certain areas. If it's your ascendant, you can transform your physical body and your path in life through this willpower by starting something new, by changing your appearance, your health. If it's your moon sign, it can totally transform your personal life and emotions and family life. If it's your sun, you can do some, it can give you a lot of willpower for some great feat in your career that you have not been able to do before, and big transformation there. But just remember, Pluto is transformations, transformations, transformations. At the end of this transit, not even at the end, whatever your degrees, when Pluto passes there, you don't have to wait 20 years, but maybe 20 years back from now, you'd look back and you'll say, that was the most important time in my life. Something so much changed within me and outside that I'm never the same person after. Speak with a few Capricorns for over the last 14 years. Ask them. They can give you some advice. And so new beginnings, new powerful beginnings. The early degrees Aquarians will feel it immediately. Later on, later degrees, later. And there can be more death around as well. This is very Plutonian. Especially during the exact hit, some important people can leave your life. Plus, because you're changing so much, you come out like this butterfly out of the cocoon and you're a new person. And so I don't know how your life will end up, how it will change. Scorpio, Pluto rules your 10th house. It will be very much, a lot of Aquarians might be called to have some career or leadership position through which they transform society and themselves as well in the public eye as well. So let's see how it goes. All right, but you can hear more about that in a different perspective about this in my video on Aquarius 2023, all 2-3 hours, link below if you're interested. And then let's focus specifically on March. Mars is finally moving out of our 5th house. It's been there for the last 6 months. So I don't know about you, but for me it was kids. My kids were all over and I was rethinking the education. Can I do homeschooling? The retrograde period was like rethinking, maybe unschooling, whatever. And if there was any problems or stresses with children, they finish the themes of that. Everything settles, it's calm. While if there was any problems in your love life as well, they finish because Mars moves away from your 5th house. If there was any problems with if you started some kind of new hobbies and interests when Mars was there, when Mars is leaving now, maybe they'll, it's not going to feel like an effort to do them. They're lastingly, or if you've been doing some creative project and you had to do a lot of focus there and there were some blockages or stresses, they all disappear as well. Maybe you can see the results of your creative projects. And you can see them fulfilled now, and it's all going great. And at the very end of the month, Mars moves into your 6th house, so you'll be way more involved with your health around that time and with work. But I think Mars was what I'm trying to say, Mars is useful while it's in your 5th house. It's sending trines to you, so use it to forge ahead in life, to forge ahead with your initiatives, because Mars is supporting you till the end of the month with a trine from the 5th house. But the other big event is that Jupiter and Venus will meet in your 3rd house at the very start of the month on 1st of March. So you can feel it the last 10 days of February, the first 20 days of March. Something very good can happen in this 3rd house. Actually, Jupiter is in your 3rd house till May, the middle of May. So if you're doing anything 3rd house, you go for it now, because the two benefics meeting there can be a new project to learn something new, to start learning some course, to travel somewhere. The 3rd house is connected to traveling, to learn some piece of information or course or knowledge that is really beneficial and really positive for you, to improve your mental health by some information, to improve some, to learn some knowledge that is uplifting and positive. Also, third house is any project connected to internet, to media, to marketing, to releasing online products. It goes fantastic. Do it this March, the end of February till the 20th of March, or even till the middle of May with Jupiter in your third house. But I want to also to use the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Some short trips, or if you want to buy a laptop or any kind of electronics for communication or a new phone, this is the time. March, the end of February, most of March. If you want to launch a book or write a book, new ideas can come to you. You can be very prolific. Or if you want to release some video or some knowledge or information or material or report to put out there, do it. Then it will be accepted well, it will thrive. If you want to publish something, this is the time again. If you want to do some trip, if you want to even buy a car around that time, fantastic. You can meet some interesting people or people that are beneficial for you. Something good can come in your life through siblings, through relatives, by social occasion, or if you're brainstorming with a group, you can get really good work done and things moving ahead, or new ideas or new project that comes to you because of that. Some important information or document or paper can come to you to make you happy. So all of those things are possible with Venus and Jupiter in the third house, or starting some class you enjoy. I'll be doing my webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. Do it. You might get a lot out of it. So thank you so much, Aquarius. All eyes on you for the next 20 years. You'll be doing the biggest transformations, and you'll play a pivotal role because Pluto is in your sign. Just like when Pluto was in Aquarius, the biggest players was in Capricorn. One of the biggest players had strong Capricorn placements. Now it will be Aquarians, individuals with strong in Aquarius placements, that will be the movers and shakers of the next 20 years. Thank you.